Welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willis, your host. I'm here with Daniel Thompson. Daniel Thompson has a story to tell. You know, we talk a whole lot about the media here at Politics Done Right. The media defines what people believe about not only community, not only economic system, not only racial issues, just about everything. And if that is gotten wrong, that can completely change the nature of society, period. I'm here with Daniel Thompson, who is an editor at the Kenosha News. Welcome aboard, Daniel. News, yes. Thank you very much for being here with me tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Let me tell. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, former editor at the Kenosha News now, I guess.
Former editor, but let me tell you something. When I read your story, actually I didn't get the original from the New York Times. I just have a feed that people would send me, hey, did you know this happened? Or
yeah,
telling you what happened. And the first thing that got to me, Daniel, is excitement. And the reason it was excitement is that we need to have a hell of a lot more people like you who do exactly what you did. So let's go ahead and ask you to tell me the story, and then I'm going to explain further later.
Okay. So kind of the story is, a little bit of background is, so I've been covering the protests locally in Kenosha since they first came to Kenosha following the shooting, the death of George Floyd. So the first night we had cars coming into Kenosha that were, doing honking, chanting Black Lives Matter, kind of parading down 75th Street, which is the main road kind of down to Lake Michigan. I was actually off that day, but I had heard about it, so I ran and jumped in the middle of it, found it, and all the live videos you see from Kenosha News from that night are me. And so at that point, I started following all the local protests because we started having protests, all different kinds, even several in one day every single weekend. But organized
even before Blake.
Even before Blake. And it was around that time, I want to say that the county and city started, throwing out some verbiage. I think they declared racism a health crisis through a resolution at the county board level. But there were things happening, and I had been kind of there for all of it. And I got to know a lot of these people. So when I was actually on vacation this past week, so I wasn't working. I was just going as a citizen. Again, because I know a lot of these people, and also I'm biracial. So these things obviously have an impact on me, these issues. So I went to the event, and it was beautiful to me because a lot of the time I've been walking up to these sort of events almost tense. Because you never know what's going to happen. And it's not even the people that are there or that organized it. You don't know what people that don't like that event are going to do in response to that event. So it's always a little bit tense. But this time when I walked up, and I had my camera with me just to document things in case it was needed. I walked up and I saw children playing. I saw people of all colors. I saw food. I saw community is what I saw. So I actually put my camera back in my car, and I just decided I'm just going to enjoy it. And I walked back and I found Corey Washington, who is on Twitter as @CoreyElijah, and is actually legitimate to me a Kenosha hero, because around the time that I started covering the local protests, Corey, who's this young Black man who you'll see kind of skating around town on his board, holding a gimbal with his cell phone. He just does live videos. And it's incredible because, honestly, out of anybody, Corey Washington probably is the one who has documented objectively the most out of anybody, because he has gone live every night. And I've even looked at his videos to verify some things that I heard, which has been extremely helpful. So I just wanted to mention him because this is another man that has been out there every day, and that has actually, before my name exploded, Corey was the go-to for accurate reporting or watching what was going on. And he still is. I will never be able to compete with Corey. Um, but no, it was, I turned to him because I saw him there, and I knew he would be there. He's always at everything. And realizing that we had both been kind of covering everything, the same things over the same length of time, I turned to him and I said to him, I think this is the event we've been waiting for. And that wasn't said for, it wasn't me saying that for us just as, you know, people of color. It was as a city, because the city's been tense this whole entire time. I mean, yell Black Lives Matter down any street in Kenosha right now and just see what happens. You know, and I'm not saying that people are hostile to that. It's just, it's hard for people to separate the peaceful protesters from violent rioters. So they're all lumped together. So anytime somebody hears Black Lives Matter after, you know, what happened here in Kenosha, even recently with what happened with uptown businesses being burned down, it's a tense thing. And same with Back the Blue or Back the Badge or Blue Lives Matter. It's an instant tense situation when you chant anything like that. But anyway, this event, when we marched to Civic Center Park, and it was filled. And it was the same kind of thing. I mean, I marched with holding a peace banner that was tie-dyed. I think the name is Ashley Roscoe. I think she's the person that created that. But I ended up actually holding it with a small child at the park, because my friend who was holding the other side decided to take a break, and this little girl wanted to hold a banner. So I'm standing there at one point holding a banner with a little girl that I don't know, and she's smiling, but after a while you can tell like she really regretted doing it, like committing to it, because
Right.
she didn't realize what it would be like. But I eventually let somebody else hold the other end, and I started walking around, and I saw more things. I saw Amish and Mennonite children, both white and black, playing. In fact, one of the children had punctured a hole in the bottom of the water bottle and was squeezing it and was giving water to the other two, a little black girl and a little white boy. And that, I took a picture of that and I captioned it, "Hate is learned." And you can find that on my Facebook.
Exactly, man.
So, and you see, and that's the environment that we were in. But I noticed the quote that Kenosha News used too. And I noticed that speaker and a lot of things, because the event, so when this speaker that was quoted by Kenosha News, that I don't even know who it was. I don't think anybody ever
I tell you what,
confirmed.
just for the sake of our audience, tell them what Kenosha News did, and then we continue with what you're saying.
Okay. So Kenosha News, what happened in the end is that this event was peaceful, but there was an instance where there was a speaker who honestly should have either been cut off or probably shouldn't have been a speaker at that event. Because in my opinion, they put a bullet in a gun that was empty before they spoke. And I say that this way because what happened in the end is, and as soon as I heard the quote, which was, I believe, if you kill one of ours, it's time to kill one of yours, or something
Right.
like that, something
Yeah.
to that effect, which immediately cringe from me. And I was totally against that. But I knew somebody would use it. I knew it would be in a headline. I thought it'd be a national outlet, honestly. But when I got home and I saw a friend railing against a headline by the Kenosha News or a Kenosha News article, and most of the time, or sometimes there are state, national wire stories that just flow into their website, and a social news desk will sweep it every 15 minutes and pump it out on social media. So sometimes those get mixed in with local. So I thought maybe that was it. Click on it, look at the text, realize it's the event I was at. So what happened after that was I screenshot it and I circled the headline in red. And I texted it to my former boss now, Bob Heiss, who is the executive editor of the Kenosha News. And what I said was that I wanted to know exactly who wrote that headline because it was grossly negligent and inappropriate. And I know, just to take a moment to acknowledge one thing, I know that a lot of people have had a reaction to kind of my reaction to the headline or to even that quote. And I've been saying constantly since day one, I fully support that quote being in the story. It happened. It was an important piece. I mean, this speaker went completely against what the Blake family wanted that message to be. And in that way, ruined almost this entirely peaceful event. Because now, going back to seeing that headline and mentioning to my boss is because putting that in the headline makes it seem like that's what the event was. But it was somebody who, it was one person, it was a sentence. It was a sentence out of a 3-hour event. And I know that there's some talk of how it was a public threat. And to that, I'd say this. If it was a public threat, there would have been something put out immediately if the journalist doing it or that wrote that story thought it was credible. I will continue on to the resignation part, but I'll finish this little segue and this little kind of explanation or background part with this is that the thing that I kind of thought about with the headline and the question I've kind of come up to ask with it, and it's more of a question of what type of person are you dealing with when you're looking at that headline. For instance, if you're standing in a crowded room and somebody somewhere in the room yells fire, are you the type of person that's going to immediately, without looking, run for the exit? Or are you going to look around and see if you actually smell smoke or see flame? Now, in saying that, why I railed against the headline was that, yes, somebody yelled fire, but there was no smoke, no flame. Mr. Blake had called for the entire country to take the night off of rioting and protesting for a night of peace. Every other speaker was calling for police accountability, of course, and for peace and for progress. So when I got home and read the Kenosha News headline, I was angry. And I sent 3 texts to my boss, to Bob. And his response was, I think the last one was that, I basically the effect of, I needed to calm down, but I wanted you to know immediately. And his response was, yes, you need to calm down. It was an exact quote. It was a public threat at an event that was, to that point, completely on message. Which, yeah, it was completely on message to that point. And then I responded, then I quit. And then he responded, saying, send me a letter of resignation in an email. It's on video. And the last thing we've ever said to each other was me a minute later sending a text that was sent. And that was me resigning from Kenosha News.
I think that was extremely important. And I have such a high level of respect because I think if more people did that, because there's so many, I think you were rather kind, okay? In other words, there's one particular article that was written about it that you said, you don't even think they knew exactly what they were doing. I am sorry, he did. The fact that you came up with a phrase that it was threatening somebody, knowing that if it really were a threat to somebody, somebody else would have reported that as, hey, we have to keep our eyes open on that. And you don't print. And the other thing is, you have to be careful with newspapers, with the media, etc. You used the example of calling fire in a room.
Yeah.
In effect, that was you had a complete event that was peaceful. You have one person. Suppose it was somebody who just came out and shouted that in the middle of the stage or whatever.
Yeah.
Would that have been reported? Which is effectively a similarity. Would that have been reported that way? You know, hello. Here's the thing. At that point, it was your newspaper that was shouting fire in a crowded room, because where Kenosha is at the heights of tension right now, that could be something that threw a whole lot of people over the edge, instigated by your newspaper.
Exactly, and that's why I resigned. Between me sending the screenshot to Bob and me sending the last text that I had sent my resignation, 20 minutes passed. And it only took that long because of delay in response between both of us. And I see what you're saying, and it's true. And that's why I was so disturbed, because literally days prior, or not even, no, it was days, but 2 people were gunned down in the streets of Kenosha by a 17-year-old that was there to protect businesses he did not own. I don't know his affiliation with it, but he was there because of these high tensions. So at a time when that's just happened, in a time where the community badly needed de-escalation from anybody, there came this headline that escalated.
And what is interesting is I just kind of scanned through the paper. I didn't have a whole lot of time, right? But
Yeah.
it seemed interesting that Rittenhouse has not gotten the treatment that I think he deserves, as being a criminal, a thug, maybe a thug with a different demeanor, but somebody that comes in, and I don't care about the criminal records of the 2 dead persons and the person who lost a hand or something like that. I saw a very measured piece that says everybody acted badly. The people who everybody acted badly, but
there was a curfew. Everybody who was out there was technically doing something criminal.
Right. But 2 died.
Exactly.
And the people that are getting the most scrutiny right now are the 2 that died.
And that's always what happens. Think about it this way. Just like people have been, and I don't do this myself, but people look at me almost like a hero because of what I did overnight, right? Same way some people are looking at Kyle Rittenhouse. He's a hero to a swath of, hopefully a small segment of the country, I would like to think. But that's the tragic part of all this, is that, yeah, the victims do get demonized because the shooter becomes a hero. The shooter becomes a hero as long as people think they look like a hero.
Right. The thing about it, though, is we know where all of this is coming from. We know the carnality of where our leadership has led us right now. I mean, it's a lot of times I like to say that fear that's in people, but I don't know too much of its fear, in as much as we are not going to be the domination people that we were at one point in time. I am not exactly sure how to best express it. I don't know if you have thoughts.
I'm trying to think. Could say that again?
Well, a lot of these people think they have the right to protect something. I always tell them on my show.
Okay.
On my show, I always tell my people, my audience is mostly white. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of good folks that follow me, etc. And what we always come to, and again, it's a real conclusion, and that is, people are fighting for something they thought they had but never had, because they are just a part of a system, and this system does some gradations to maintain itself, and everybody in it except sans the top they're but pawns in the system designed otherwise. And you know, my audience realizes, well, my progressive audience realizes that I have a large conservative audience as well, but they don't
Yeah.
quite get it. They're constantly making, what I like to say is they're making us better, because we have to come up with the arguments to sort of dispute those issues.
It's to me, even when it comes to talking about issues right nowadays. So, and especially lately, like I've even realized this now since I resigned, and now there's more attention, you know, especially on Twitter towards me, and the kind of back and forths I've gotten into people and with people is that it is so important for all of us to talk right now, but it really takes one person not being emotional.
Right.
Let me put it this way. So I did something horribly wrong on the second day of this whole situation that I'm in.
Mm-hmm.
I, you know, was angry, and somebody had just texted me and said, you know who it was, right? And then I found out who wrote that headline. So I was livid again. And so I went on the almost scorched earth path of being angry of, I know who it is. I'm going to out this person in 24 hours. And I bring that up, and people can look at my Twitter feed and see kind of throughout the day how that changed and how I was reacting and how I was listening to people and responding, which ultimately made me decide I'm not going to do that. That'd be wrong too. But it also humbled me in a way, because I'm so lucky that I had so many people call me out and make me reconsider my position. And I'm lucky that I was just calm enough to listen. Because let's say that I had followed through on that threat. 24 hours. Okay, so I throw this person's name out there, right? So I just retaliated for somebody writing a headline that incited violence by naming somebody, knowing that somebody might harm them and their family.
Right.
In the end, the hypocrisy in what I was doing was heavy.
Right.
But I say that to say this: it is so easy to swing from one side to the other.
Right.
And think that it is almost righteous anger.
You know, that is so true. I just wrote a book, and it just came out 2 weeks ago. It's called It's Worth It: How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors. And the reason I did that was you encapsulate a whole lot of that, including the retrospection that you had. There were times I always tell people about some of my own prejudices that I had to get over. And I use that as examples as how best to be able to talk to folks on the other side. Because no matter what you think about the other people, no matter whether you think they're racist, sexist, homophobes, or whatever, they just have an ism that generally speaking, I'm sorry, can be broken, you know? And so go ahead.
So, and it's funny you bring that up about trying to talk to different people, because it's funny. Even when I've been at protests and there are counter protests, let's say, I don't remember what day it was, but there was a protest at the Columbus statue in Kenosha, and there was a huge counter protest around the statue. At one point, and I find myself doing this just because I'm always open to talking to people of opposing views. Yeah, I'm curious. And also I think adding, talking to more people and forcing yourself to talk to people that especially think things that you don't think or that you don't believe helps your understanding. And especially as a journalist,
yes,
it would help me understand more topics that I cover in a more
better.
real way. Yeah. So I often talk to people, and I actually had a great conversation with somebody who was a counter protester there, who laid out many of just the logistical problems of removing the Columbus statue in Kenosha. So I gained more information from talking to this person. And that's the thing that is, for one, it's encouraging that I can do that, but it's also disheartening that that is rare, or that a lot of us aren't able to do that.
I think what we have to do is, and again, that's one of the reasons that I wrote it, is that we have to put ourselves in a modal that allows us to do that. And there's something very important that you said, and that is somebody in the room has to be the one willing to just take it. You know, somebody in the, and generally speaking, that's who I am. I mean, I get a lot of flack a lot of times from the left flank for taking it. But I would let people, I let people know that I'm genuinely listening to absolutely everything that they're saying before I am going to respond. I'm not looking for a response as a comeback. I'm looking for a response after understanding where they are coming from. And it makes for good dialogue. But
It does.
yeah, it makes for great dialogue. But look, we're coming at the end of our time here, and I want to thank you. This was an impromptu interview. I just read about you and got in touch with you and said, I got to talk to this guy, because this guy, and you don't want to take the word hero. I'm going to tell you, if I call somebody a hero, brother, that person is a hero, man. Because let me tell you something. There are very few people that are willing to give up their place of employment on principle. And in fact, that is what keeps our society in the state that it is, because everybody has it's a price when you give up everything for something of this type. There's a price that you pay. And we understand that, and some people can't do it. Some people won't do it. You did it, my hero. Daniel Thompson, thank you so kindly for having been on Politics Done Right. Respect, and I hope to talk to you sometime. I hope you're going to be into your own journalistic company and that you're going to do things completely on your own. Tell me a little bit about that before we leave.
I am already in the process of putting together infrastructure and everything like that to start my own company in Kenosha.
Excellent. Well, I'll be following your stories, sir, and I hope to get info from you and place you right there on my Politics Done Right on egbertowillies.com site, sir. Thank you very much for this interview.
Thank you for speaking to me.
I'm Egberto Willies, host of Politics Done Right, an independent news program. I post several news videos of interest every day. I ask you so kindly to subscribe to my channel, and please leave me some comments. Thank you very much.